All right, joining me now, Gina Loudon, conservative commentator and media advisory board member of Donald Trump for president, and former Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell, NBC News political analyst and CNBC contributor. Welcome to you both. Gina, I'm going to start with you. The president obviously taking on this issue very publicly, both making a statement yesterday and, of course, tweeting out what he did on Saturday as well. By doing this, Gina, is the president not ensuring that the discussion about his mental state and his capacity continues?
Well, the problem often, I think, probably for most Trump supporters, they feel like they're not adequately represented by the media when we know that more than 90% of the coverage of this administration so far, which has been tremendously productive by any standard from an economic or national security standpoint, and yet 90% of the media coverage has been negative. So I think that, you know, people who are out there who voted for this president, who want to get on with the business of making America better, they're frustrated and they want him to counterpunch on issues like this so that Gina, the message gets out there.
Asking about the president's reaction himself, the way that he addressed his mental capabilities and the tweet that he sent out yesterday as well. Does that not only continue the conversation by saying, I actually am a genius?
Well, I think it says that he's not afraid of having the conversation, right? He's obviously a very well-credentialed person, went to the best of the best schools. He's established himself as an incredible businessman, went on to be a Hollywood star because he decided to do that for a moment and then became president of the United States against all odds in the entire establishment. That's brag-worthy in the book of just about anyone. So I don't think most people have a problem with him saying it. I think what most people have a problem with is the media's continued focus on this rather than moving America forward.
Do you think that the ability to become a Hollywood star, Gina, is the same as the ability to become president of the United States? Do you think those should be one and the same?
No, I don't think they're the same, and I don't think anyone equated them. I'm just saying it's about setting a goal and doing your best and becoming the best at what you do. And he's done that in multiple realms, which most people at the end of their lives can't look back and say they went to the top of their field in more than one field, and he's done it in several, and I think it's worth noting.
Governor, the president, in one of his tweets, said that the media is, quote, taking out the old Ronald Reagan playbook and screaming mental stability and intelligence. Does the media, Governor, have a right to question the president's mental stability?
Well, sure, for this president and any president. But the fallacy of the argument that was just made is that it wasn't the media that raised the president's mental stability for the first time. It was a Republican senator from Tennessee who was considered by the Trump campaign as a possible vice presidential candidate, Senator Corker. He publicly said something which was shocking to many coming from a Republican. He had serious doubts about the president's mental stability. And then, of course, Rex Tillerson was quoted, and he never directly denied it, that the president was a moron. Now, I know Donald Trump, and he's not a moron. He has more than significant intelligence. His biggest problem is he doesn't seem to listen. He doesn't seem to be engaged. He doesn't seem to care about things, and he seems to respond. I mean, if your stability were questioned, you shake it off. You don't say, I'm a genius, I'm stable. Stability is one of my main assets. Look, Donald Trump has a lot of assets. He can sell anything, but stability would not be at the top of the rung.
Gina, doesn't the governor have a point there that if your stability is questioned, you should sort of just be able to shake it off, move on, do your job?
I mean, if his narrative were ever honestly discussed in the media, but we know that it isn't. When 90% of the media has focused on negative things about a wildly, historically successful presidency, despite things like the governor just mentioned, that the swamp has been a constant problem, that the media has been a constant voice against him, and yet he's still been so incredibly productive. And I don't understand, for the people who want to just constantly focus on the negative and focus on tearing down, I would be the one questioning their sanity. It's not a good thing to just be constantly tearing down a negative. And I think when you look at things like African-American unemployment at an all-time low, that's what this president's mission has been.
Is it the negative, or is it the way the president chooses to run the White House? The media is only responding to the way in which the president chooses to run this White House. It's not focusing on the negative.
Well, it is absolutely focusing on the negative. It is spun at every turn. Nothing the president does is ever heralded by the media. I haven't heard any reports about the fact that he's made January Human Trafficking Month and he's dedicating a whole task force to that. I haven't heard anything about black unemployment being at a historic low and black housing being at a high. I haven't heard any of this reporting in the media.
Gina, I heard that statistic. I heard that statistic about black unemployment being at a historic low 4 times yesterday on the media. And remember, it's not the media that has questioned its stability.
And I do hope they'll start being,
wait,
let's go on more honest.
Gina, let the governor speak.
Listen,
sure.
It's not on the issue of stability, which is what we're discussing. It's not the media that brought up the issue of his stability. It was fellow Republicans. It was friends of his. It was personal friends who questioned whether he was melancholy, questioned whether he was engaged. It was Bob Corker saying that he questioned his stability. It was Rex Tillerson saying he was a moron. It was General McMaster saying he doesn't listen, that they have to brief him by putting his name in stuff.
So, Gina,
that's the case. It's not the media.
Do you just not believe it, Gina? Is that what it is?
I mean, certainly, I pay a lot more attention to actions than I do words. And I learned that a long time ago in politics. What matters to me is how productive this president has been. That is a sure sign of mental strength, of mental integrity, and of his commitment to this country. That's what matters to me. That's why I sleep well at night. And I'm not really concerned about what a bunch of people who he considers, and most Trump voters consider, the swamp, and however it is they want to rumor this and say people have said things when, in fact, most of those people deny it pretty strongly. And those that don't probably just have more important things to do.
Go ahead, Governor.
Gina, we're letting you off the hook on most productive president ever because that's not the topic. I think his presidency has been disastrous. It's accomplished nothing. It's tearing away at our environment. It's doing so many different things to split the country apart. But leave that aside for now. On the question of stability, it's his tweets that say, I've got a bigger button than Kim Jong-un does. And my button works. My button works, implying that he'd be just as happy to press that button. Of course, by the way, it isn't a button. The only button he has on his desk. The only button he has on his desk. The only button he has on his desk is a button that will get him Diet Cokes from a valet. He doesn't have a button.
So Gina, the governor is bringing up his tweets. Talk to me about those tweets. Do you think that the tweets help or hurt your argument with regards to the president's mental stability when he's tweeting out things about various people in the media, when he's calling people names, when he's saying, I have a bigger button than yours with regards to Kim Jong-un?
The president's a counterpuncher. We know that. With regards to Kim Jong-un, what he did brought Kim Jong-un to the table for the first time in decades. And rather than celebrating that and talking about how we can all move forward as a nation, putting America first, making sure that the nuclear threat of North Korea is off the table, instead of that, we're criticizing his methodology. I don't know about you, but I like what works. And that's what I believe this administration has done from day one.
Governor, final word. Governor, final word.
Final word. Gina, I have to question your mental stability if you think that anything Donald Trump has done has reduced the nuclear threat by North Korea. I'm sorry. Maybe you need.
They're negotiating now.
I think I would have to say I think there would be a lot of experts
out there. They're not negotiating. They're talking to the South Koreans.
We'll end it there. We'll end it there, Gina. But I think there'll be a lot of experts out there that would say we are certainly not out of the woods with regards to our nuclear threat right now. Gina Loudon and Governor Ed Rendell, thank you both.